Hello YouTube and welcome to the introduction of the first ever Storytime with Storyteller. I will be reading for you Voltaire's Candide as a means of practice, as true ease in reading comes from art, not chance. Basically, practice makes perfect, and to be honest, I am not the best speaker ever. I constantly trip over my tongue, bite my tongue, do whatever. The words tend to flow faster than the eyes do read, that kind of thing. So why am I practicing, you might ask? Well, I didn't want to practice with Dante Alighieri's The Divine Comedy, so I will be doing this instead. For now. It will get better, believe me. I hope you can't hear the traffic outside. I'm going to close my window when it cools down a bit. So, that is what I'll be doing. This has been the introduction. Last chance to do it. I won't be able to speak to you again in a long time. Read the description of all of these videos for me. That is where I will be able to tell you to like or favorite if you enjoyed. This will probably be the least dramatic reading you will have ever heard. And the least pedantic. Almost as unpedantic as my reading of The Raven. Yeah, I kind of read that pretty casually. Okay. Stay tuned for Voltaire's Candide. Voltaire's Candide. Chapter 1. How Candide was brought up in a magnificent castle, and how he was driven thence. In the country of Westphalia, in the castle of the most noble baron of Thunder ten Tronckh, lived a youth whom nature had endowed with the most sweet disposition. His face was the true index of his mind. He had a solid judgment joined to the most unaffected simplicity, and thence, I presume, he had his name of Candide. The old servants of the house suspected him to have been the son of the baron's sister, by a very good sort of gentleman of the neighbourhood, whom the young lady refused to marry because he could produce no more than 11 quarterings in his arms, the rest of the genealogical tree belonging to the family having been lost through the injuries of time. The baron was one of the most powerful lords in Westphalia, for his castle had not only a gate, but even windows, and his great hall was hung with a tapestry. He used to hunt with mastiffs and spaniels instead of greyhounds. His groom served him well for huntsman, and the parson of the parish officiated as his grand almoner. He was called my lord by his people, and he never told a story but everyone laughed at it. My lady Baroness, who weighed 350 pounds, consequently was a person of no small consideration. And then she did the honours of the house with a dignity that commanded universal respect. Her daughter was about 17 years of age, fresh-coloured, comely, plump, and desirable. The baron's son seemed to be a youth in every respect worthy of the father he had sprung from. Pangloss, the preceptor, was the oracle of the family, and little Candide listened to his instructions with all the simplicity natural to his age and disposition. Master Pangloss taught metaphysico-theologo-cosmologology. He could prove to admiration that there is no effect without a cause, and that in this best of all possible worlds the baron's castle was the most magnificent of all castles, and my lady the best of all possible baronesses. It is demonstrable, he said, that things cannot be otherwise than as they are. For, as all things have been created for some end, they must necessarily be created for the best end. Observe, for instance, the nose is formed for spectacles, therefore we wear spectacles. The legs are visibly designed for stockings, accordingly we wear stockings. Stones were made to be hewn and to construct castles, therefore my lord has a magnificent castle. For the greatest baron in the province ought to be the best lodged. Swine were intended to be eaten, therefore we eat pork all the year round. And they, who assert that everything is right, do not express themselves correctly. They should say that everything is best. Candide listened attentively and believed implicitly, for he thought Miss Kudengund excessively handsome, though he had never had the courage to tell her so. he concluded that next to the happiness of being Baron of Thunder Ten Tronckh, the next was that of being Miss Cudengode, and the next that of seeing her every day, and the last that of hearing the doctrine of Master Pangloss, the greatest philosopher of the whole province, and consequently of the whole world. One day, when Miss Cudengode went to take a walk in a little neighbouring wood which was called a park, she saw, through the bushes, the sage Dr. Pangloss giving a lecture in experimental philosophy to her mother's chambermaid, a little brown wench, very pretty and very tractable. As Miss Cudengode had a great disposition for the sciences, she observed with the utmost attention the experiments which were repeated before her eyes. She perfectly well understood the force of the doctor's reasoning upon causes and effects. She retired greatly flurried, quite pensive, and filled with the desire of knowledge, imagining that she might be a sufficient reason for the young Candide, and he for her. On her way back she happened to meet the young man. She blushed. He blushed also. She wished him a good morning in a flattering tone. He returned the salute without knowing what he said. The next day, as they were rising from dinner, Cudengode and Candide slipped behind the screen. The miss dropped her handkerchief. The young man picked it up. She innocently took hold of his hand, and he as innocently kissed hers with a warmth, a sensibility, a grace all very particular. Their lips met, their eyes sparkled, their knees trembled, their hands strayed. The Baron chanced to come by. He beheld the cause and the effect, and, without hesitation, saluted Candide with some notable kicks upon the breech, and drove him out of doors. The lovely Miss Cudengode fainted away, and as soon as she came to herself, the Baroness boxed her ears. Thus a general consternation was spread over this most magnificent and most agreeable of all possible castles.